My name is Josh Ciardullo, and this is my wife, Erica Ciardullo, and we are the owners of Ciardullo Ranch, a regenerative beef operation here in Wellington, Colorado. Back in 2016, we had an opportunity to move out of the suburbs into a little bit more of a rural environment, and we purchased 33 acres up here in Wellington, and we built a home. And probably after the first season, we came with chickens, but we decided to get into beef production because we wanted to raise beef for ourselves. There was a lot of greenwashing going on, still is, in the industry, and we wanted to know exactly how these animals were treated and what went into their dietary intake so that we could have clean, healthy food for our family. And we started raising beef in 2016.
Yeah, and we fell in love with this way of life when we moved out to the country. We didn't grow up in this lifestyle. We were out in the suburbs, in the city, and we moved out here and we absolutely fell in love with every aspect of it, the land, raising chickens, and then soon we would get cattle and then lambs, and then raising our son out here was truly one of the greatest blessings. So we fell in love with this lifestyle and fell in love with raising animals, and we just were really inspired by all of it.
Yeah, what started as a small operation with about 3 stockers, and for those of you that don't know, a stocker is an animal that's weaned from the mother at about 6 months of age. Typically, by that point, they're fairly self-sufficient. They've already got through the stage where they might get sick. They're pretty durable at that point, and so we would take them and we would raise them to about 2.5 years, 3 years of age before we'd process them, and it was a easier setup than what we're doing now. We've had to pivot now to where we have mama cows and we actually calve, and so we're delivering babies, we're raising them from calves, and there's a whole different list of stuff that can go wrong when you're doing that. And we started off on 30 acres here at our home property, and now we manage one of the main properties is about 600 acres, but we manage a couple thousand acres. So just from an environmental stewardship, level, it's a lot easier to take care of 3 to 6 animals here on 30 acres than it is to take care of 30 or 40 on 600 or 1,000 acres. So while the goal is the same, it encompasses a lot more work and effort and sort of mobility on our end to be able to move those cattle about and get them to that final processing stage.
A few years ago, we had to make the decision to start to pivot, and we have not had beef available for our customers for the past year because we've had to pivot. And so now it's like we're learning a whole new skill set with cow-calf operation. It's one thing when you have just a few mamas calving, 2 or 3, and then it's a whole nother thing when you have, 20, 30 mamas calving, and we've had to jump right in and, ask for advice and get, vets out and learn and grow. And we had to grow really quickly. Our herd has grown quickly, and we have had to grow quickly and pivot and change and learn. You don't just get to take a time out. And I think it's really given me a respect for what he had to do as a firefighter paramedic for 20 years. I see him just naturally, get involved with these animals when they're dying, when they're, sick. And like I said, it's very rare that we have sick or, animals that are really ill, but when we do have it, because it does happen, he's able to jump right in with cool and calm, and also teaching me how to do these things as well, which has grown our relationship in tremendous ways. I mean, we work side by side all the time, and that was we very rarely saw each other. I was a teacher for 16 years. He was a firefighter. Now we're working together all the time.
There's quite a bit of challenges that you face as a first generation rancher, especially when you start off small like we did on a home property. Like I said, we started with a few 3 steers, and we didn't have any equipment. I don't even know if I was borrowing my neighbor's trailer at that point. So I had a truck. I didn't have a trailer, didn't have a horse. We had 3 head of cattle, and everything goes well until maybe one of them, gets pink eye, or maybe one of them gets an injury that you have to treat, and then now you're trying to figure out how to contain that animal while you administer the first aid that it needs. So multiply that by a dozen when you're out there on a bigger chunk of land with more animals. So we had to, acquire all the stuff. So we didn't have the capital initially. So over the years, we've saved up, to get a bigger truck, to get a trailer to haul more animals, to get, the infrastructure, the facilities to be able to round them up and contain them, put them in a chute, be able to give them proper care and make it safer for us and the animal while doing it. I had ridden horses off and on, doing vacations and stuff like that, but I'd never ridden a horse at that level where you have to, move livestock, or you have to ride through some rough country to locate them, or you have to rope them and doctor them. So I've had to learn all those things as I've went along, and the horsemanship and the stockmanship has improved drastically over the years. But that's just, it comes with the territory. We first started the first couple years. We would go drive the cattle up to national forests where they'd spend the summers, and my son and I would be on horseback, and she had really never been on a horse, and she was very afraid to even get on a horse at that point. So some of the challenges have been personal challenges that we've had to overcome. So now she's comfortable getting in the saddle and helping move cattle around and riding the horse. And that's just like one example of how you have to overcome those things as a first generation rancher, not growing up riding horses, not being around livestock, but there's a job to do. And she learned the basic skill set she needed to be able to help with that.
Yeah, I would watch him and friends and our son move our cattle. And I would watch this time and time again. And I held this like deep sense of like, I need to be doing that. Like, these are my animals. And so I had to really like put my fear aside and face my fear. I should say, instead of put it aside, I just really face my fear and learn how to ride a horse so that I could help move our cattle, or, take care of our cattle on horseback. And it's been a wonderful experience. And I also feel like I've learned so much about myself in ranching. I've learned that I can tackle really difficult situations. And because we did not grow up with this lifestyle and ranching, it's been very hard for us to adjust to animals that we lose, and even taking our animals in for harvest. And, when I first started showcasing our life on social media, and I would share a very, intimate moment of, an animal that had passed away, people would say, yeah, well, livestock is dead stock. And that was just like, whoa, and these are people who've grown up watching their animals be born and die, and they become accustomed to that. And we still are not accustomed to that. And we're thankful to God that we haven't had a lot of loss, but the loss that we have had has felt very devastating and impactful on our hearts. And I think that that's been a really hard thing to adjust to, even when we take our animals in for harvest and we're loading them onto the trailer and taking them in for processing. We're both in the car with tears in our eyes, and, we're praying over our animals and we're thankful for our animals. And then we question on harvest day, we question, or when leading up to harvest, we're like, is this what we should be doing? Because it feels really hard. Our hearts are really, heavy. And then we remind ourselves of why we do what we do. We're doing it to raise wholesome, quality food for our family, for our friends, and for our community. And there is nothing quite like growing food for other people. It's an honor and it's a privilege.
Ranching is intimately woven into the tapestry of the American culture. When people think about the cowboy and the Western lifestyle, it's not just John Wayne out there rounding up cattle and doing these huge cattle drives from, Texas up to Denver. That was a reality back in the day. It's changed quite a bit. So that, what's the word I'm looking for? Not the glamour or the nostalgia of that has sort of come and gone. There's still big ranches out there. There's still cattle drives out there. Don't get me wrong, but you have to feel it like in your soul to be able to do this work and want to continue doing this work no matter what.
I think we feel it in our soul.
Yeah.
It's evident that we feel ranching in our soul and in our spirit, and that this is what we're meant to do, until God says it's not what we're meant to do anymore, but we still keep pushing along.
I don't think there's another career out there that ties you so intimately
Mm-hmm.
to everything that God created, such as just from the morning to the evening, just that circadian rhythm and that balance on the ranch, just the basic chores of like feeding in the morning, feeding in the evening. And then it gets bigger as the seasons progress, right? So spring, summer, fall, winter, they all bring different challenges. And then when we started calving and doing the cow calf model, we have the breeding season, we're creating life, and then we're taking care of those mamas, and then they give birth, and we're there when those babies hit the ground, and we're there on that last day when we take them in for processing, and we're grateful for every second that we spend with them in between. And that's really something that you can't teach. That's really something that I think you have to experience firsthand to have that level of appreciation for. And so if you're interested in that at all, get involved. Just get out there and get involved. There really is sort of like this culture and ranching and horse community that it's sort of like, if you're an outsider, it's hard to get into. We've had over the years a handful of people reach out through social media actually and say, hey, I know nothing about ranching, zero, but I'd love to learn, and I'm a hard worker. Can we come out and work with you guys and just learn? And it's been very rewarding to bring a couple people out and to see them now continuing working in the industry, doing various jobs. But yeah, it's something that we need more people to have that ambition and that desire to do. Reach out. You're going to be told no a lot of times because unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the time or the energy to spend mentoring younger folks and getting into it. But there are people out there like ourselves that I think would, with open arms, bring you out and kind of share with you everything that we've learned, and then you can take it from there.
My great grandparents, my great grandparents on both sides were immigrants to this country and like started from nothing and built businesses from the ground up. I think like carrying that on in some sense, like building something from nothing, like to think that my great grandparents came over here and built something from nothing, and I'm sort of carrying that on. I didn't grow up with my father, who is Hispanic. I didn't have any of that, like those traditions and that culture and all of that, and so I missed out on all those pieces, speaking Spanish or whatever. And so like to give our son this is part of our culture and part of our heritage. And I mean, like he was wearing cowboy boots and a cowboy hat, and one day hopefully our grandkids, our great grandkids will have this desire to continue ranching and to continue to raising animals with the utmost care and respect and the dignity that we've had for our animals.
So this to us is a hill that we're willing to die on. We're not going to be just another statistic of a ranch that was outpaced by inflation or livestock costs or drought. We're going to keep the gas pedal down, keep moving forward. There's nothing else that I'd rather do, and I feel like we have all of our customers behind us, and they're looking at us to produce a product really the way that we think the good Lord intended it to be produced. So we're here to champion the cause of taking care of the livestock as humanely and ethically as possible, to letting them live their entire lives as they would if we weren't around. Just like the buffalo roamed the plains years and years ago. We want those cattle to enjoy that same lifestyle. And if we couldn't raise the cattle the way that we do now, I don't think that we would want to be in ranching. So that's something that, at the end of the day, we can hang our hat on and say, we did it the way that we wanted to do it and the way that we thought best. And that's what we're going to continue to do.